Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today for this session on AI-powered presentations, tips, and tricks. So today we'll be looking at three amazing and free, most importantly, AI-powered tools that you can use in your lessons. So in this session, first of all, we'll talk about why are we talking about presentations? Why are we doing this for our first YouTube Live? Secondly, we'll look at a tool which you'll absolutely love called Slides Go, and this can help you create instant presentations. Next, we'll look at another tool, and it's an instant slide generation tool, but it also creates the content for you as well. And it's a Chrome extension, which you might be familiar with, called Brisk. And then thirdly, we'll move on to another tool, which you might be surprised to find has now been integrated into Microsoft PowerPoint. So this is free for everyone to use if you have PowerPoint on your laptop, which I'm sure most of us do. Then finally, we'll look at some tips, quick fire tips for using AI generated content for your presentations. And then we'll have a quick roundup at the end for any comments or questions that I haven't answered. So, first of all, why are we talking about presentations? Why are AI generated presentations useful? So, first of all, I don't know about you, but when I try to create my own presentation templates, if I haven't been provided them by my school or by a publisher, I really struggle with design. So, I struggle to think about what colors work with each other, what works well in a presentation slide, also without putting too much information on the slide as well. So using AI is perfect for this because it can instantly generate perfect, hopefully, looking slides for you and take that design element out of it for you as well. Also, if you're struggling with content, perhaps you as a teacher obviously have a lot of admin to do, you have a lot of lesson planning to do. So you're struggling a little bit for time. And perhaps you don't have time to firstly design the slides and secondly, input the information or the content that you're trying to teach into the slides as well. So you can design the slides and also you can integrate content, AI generated content as well. Also, maybe you just want some presentation on your feedback. Perhaps you want some feedback on how you're speaking, how your presentation skills are. Perhaps you're going to give a conference talk, or perhaps that's something you would like to do in the future. Then getting feedback on how you speak, the pace at which you speak, the filler words that you're using can be really, really useful as well. So, who uses these presentations and why are we here? So hopefully maybe you're a teacher and you use presentations presenting at the front of your class. Maybe, as I said, you give webinars, training sessions, or perhaps you do conference talks, or that's something you would like to do in the future. Maybe you want to use this information in this session to improve your students' presentation skills, because as we know, our students often feel quite nervous when standing up and presenting in front of the class. So hopefully all of these tools we'll look at in this session will be helpful for those purposes. So I'm going to share my screen with you and go through a demonstration of the tools that we can use. So first of all, we're going to be looking at a tool called Slides Go. So this is slidesgo.com. And you will need to make an account for this, but it is totally free to use. So I'm already logged into my account here. So with Slides Go, you can search for a template or you can press AI Presentation Maker. And then you can enter a topic that you want to create for your presentation. So for me, I want to imagine that I'm teaching young learners, perhaps very young learners, age 3 to 6. And I want to give a presentation at the front of the class on sort of some fun and engaging activities that I can do for this age range. So I would simply type in the topic that I want. So engaging and fun activities for teaching young learners age 3 to 6. So this is quite nice because you can choose your writing tone here. So I'm just going to go unspecified and hope that it produces me something good. Then you can choose your language, and we're going to choose English, of course. Then you can choose your number of slides, and I'm just going to stick with 8 here. Then you can choose the style, and you can see some examples here. So minimalist, which is probably better for sort of a simple presentation, maybe something more businessy. colourful presentations or geometric presentations, which are probably quite good for my purpose here, teaching young learners, and professional. So I'm going to go for geometric, and then I'll just press generate presentation at the bottom. And it takes a couple of minutes to load, but when it does load, it generates, as I said, the design of your slides for you. So it won't do the content, it just sort of does the design, and you'll see what this comes up with in a moment. So this is what it's generated for me. So it's actually given me a title, which is useful. And it seems to have generated some images which are sort of the age range that I want. Again, this content here, you would need to change it. You know, it's not applicable to my classroom context of ELT. Of course, this is just describing the learning, but it's quite good for seeing the layout, seeing the images that it's generated as well. Because these are AI generated images, you might want to change them. Like, I'm not really sure what this Oliver Twist style image is here. So you can replace these with simple stock photos on sites like Shutterstock, Getty, Alamy, or if you don't want to sort of pay for those images, you can use things like Pixabay, for example. Or you could use an image generator, and a great AI image generator is called Ideogram. So Ideogram. And I will show that to you now. So Ideogram, again, you will need to make an account, but you can create AI generated images here. So there's sort of a limit on the number of AI images that you can generate. And of course, when you're thinking about your prompt, as you can see, there are different types of images. So do you want sort of an animation? Do you want something that's very realistic? Do you want something that's futuristic? So just think about the type of prompt that you're going to enter for your image. So these are just some images that are on the home page, but you can see what they've generated here. So as I said, if you do want to replace your images in your slides, then Ideogram is a great way to do that. So once you've created them, you can then go to your projects here, and you can see all of the AI presentations that you've created in the past. So I did another one earlier, and I'll just show you another version that it generated for me here. So this was much more engaging, I think, in terms of the images that it created. However, as you can see, it did show some animated plus some realistic images. So obviously for consistency, you might want to change those. So that's our first tool, Slides Go. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. If you've used this tool before, if you've heard of this tool before, or what your thoughts are. And if you are watching this session back on replay, do feel free to comment as well before or after you've used this tool to let me know what you think of this. Okay, so we're going to go on to our next option, and this is called brisk teaching. So I'm sure some of you, I know some of you who are in this session at the moment have actually used this, but there's a very, very good way to create auto-generated presentations, but also the content side of things as well. So brisk teaching has a number of AI uses for teachers, but we're just going to focus on the presentations in this session. So once you go onto briskteaching.com, you'll see add to Chrome for free. So you'll need to click this because it's not a download, it's a Chrome extension. And that means that when you go onto your web browser, in the corner where your URL is, there will be sort of a tab, essentially. And you'll click on that, and that will load brisk teaching for you. So I've already downloaded this and added it to Chrome, but as I said, just click on this link here and you can add it to Chrome completely free. So I am going to, actually, I'll go through that with you so then you can see. So you could just remove it and add it if you haven't already done that. So we're going to start making a presentation. So we're going to go to Google Docs, Google Slides. And we're going to make a blank presentation. So when you go to Brisk, you'll see at the bottom, in the very right-hand bottom here, you've got Brisk Teaching. And you can click on this and you can create and add slides. So here, obviously check your languages in English, check your template. So again, I'm going to stick with sort of geometric shapes here. And then you can type a prompt in like you would on ChatGPT, for example. So what type of presentation do you want to make? So for me, I want to imagine that I'm teaching sort of B2 learners of English. Sometimes sort of AI tools don't really get when you say the CEFR level. So you might have to specify that that's intermediate or upper intermediate, for example. So for me, I'm teaching English language learners at B2 level on the CEFR or upper intermediate. We're talking about going on holiday, so different types of holiday, different accommodation options. So I want to create sort of a presentation that I'm going to show at the front of the class. So with this tool, you can select the age of learner. So for me, I'm just going to imagine that I'm teaching adult learners. Then you can choose the number of slides. So here, yeah, let's just stick with what it's provided. So 10. And you can select with or without images, but I'd like images in my slides. Then we click Brisket here, and you can see it's going to load my presentation and hopefully generate me some good content. So let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so it's generated our first slide here. And again, use your sort of knowledge and your experience to see whether this AI generated content is something that you actually want to use and whether it's suitable for your context. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but obviously we need to check for accuracy, we need to check for biases and things like that. So it's still generating my slides. We'll just give it a couple of seconds. I can see in the comments, Ricardo's written, yeah, things can get a bit tricky when it comes to getting the design right. Yeah, I just really struggle with design in all aspects of life. So that's why I'm a teacher and not a designer. Okay, so we've finally got our last slide. So let's have a look at what it's generated. Let's close this here. So the exciting world of holidays. Okay, probably we would want to change this title, but fine. It's great to start with. And I quite like the look of these slides. You know, it's developed sort of like a notepad look with some geometric shapes. And it started to include some language, so types of holidays. Of course, use your discretion if this language is at the CEFR level that you require, but it looks quite good so far. Accommodation, as we asked for, planning your itinerary, great task. Packing essentials, traveling on a budget, nice. And I've noticed something here. So this has got US spelling. So perhaps you might want to specify if you want UK spelling or US spelling, or perhaps you could just go through and edit it yourself. And then it's sort of gone off on a tangent, local cuisine, staying safe, etc., etc. So I think some of this content is definitely usable. You know, it's given us a question which we might need to edit and level check. But it's also given us some nice ideas for topics like budget, luxury, affordable, connect with nature, and discussion questions. So for the design aspect, Brisk is wonderful. For the content aspect, it's really great if you are sort of a bit rushed for time. However, as I said, go through and use your discretion on that. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this tool. What do you think about this tool compared to the previous one that we used? As you can see, it automatically saves to your Google Docs. So of course, you can go back in and download the presentation as a slideshow if you want to as well. Okay, we're going to go on to our third and final option. And actually, this is very much my favorite option. So let me show you what PowerPoint has introduced. Bear with me a second. So PowerPoint has introduced a rehearsal platform, which is absolutely wonderful to use. So I've created a test presentation, and this is basically, I'm just going to run through the presentation with you. And then what we're going to do is go to slideshow here, and you'll see this button, rehearse with coach. And this pops up. So, welcome to PowerPoint Presenter Coach. So, this is a way for you to rehearse and practice your presentation skills, your speaking, your pace, as I said, your filler words, and just to get feedback on how your presentation skills are. And I absolutely love this tool because I think a lot of the time in ELT, teachers have so much knowledge to share. However, perhaps they don't feel comfortable public speaking. The same goes for students, right? Maybe they don't feel that comfortable public speaking. So we need to just sort of hone those presentation skills, which is easier said than done because, of course, we don't like practice our presentations really in front of people. So how can we get feedback? So we'll press start rehearsing, and I'm going to act as if I'm giving this presentation to you. Hi everyone, and welcome to this session on AI-powered presentation tips and tricks from ELT CPD. So ELT CPD is a teacher training platform dedicated to professional development for English language teaching professionals. It provides various resources. We have podcasts, courses, and lots of different content and materials that focus on ELT professional development. So we've had our podcast for almost 4 years. We have 6,000 downloads in 61 countries and territories. And on our podcast, we have interviews with different guest experts speaking about a variety of different topics, such as finances in ELT, getting into materials writing, using technology in the classroom, preparing your students for various exams, and so on. We now have a YouTube channel which provides demonstrations of common AI tools, and you can find us on all the good podcast channels, ELT CPD on YouTube and eltcpd.com for our teacher training courses. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Okay, so that was my presentation. So I'm going to press the pause button here, and hopefully you saw at the bottom of the screen that it was sort of generating feedback for me as I was presenting. So it was saying things like, don't use too many filler words, or perhaps things like that. So we are going to now get some feedback on our presentation. So once you close the presentation down, you'll see this report on screen. So this basically shows you your rehearsal report. I'm just going to triple check that you can see my rehearsal report. Bear with me a second. Let's make sure we can all see it. Entire screen. Yeah, here we go. So my presentation, it's not coming up for some reason. So let's try this a different way. Here we go. Okay, so you should be able to see my entire screen now. So this is my rehearsal report, and this was the feedback basically that it gave me on my presentation skills. So it told me how long I spent giving the presentation. It told me how many slides there were. It told me about filler words. So apparently I only said but it does give some really nice feedback here. So it says to sound more polished and confident, you don't use filler words, pause, take a breath, basically take your time. It also counts the number of words per minute and my use of repetitive language too. It also gives feedback on your inclusive language, which is really, really nice addition that they've added. And originality. So it said that on slide 2, I read too much of the information on the slide, which is really important when you're giving a presentation, right? You don't want to read too much of what's on the slide. Everyone can sort of read that for themselves. So when I was giving my presentation, I didn't want to give a very good presentation. I wanted to make sure there were feedback points that it could give me. So things like my pitch, increase the tone for your key points, and your average pace over time, which is really useful because I think when we're nervous, we tend to speak quicker, of course. Then if you want to rehearse this again, you can, and you can practice it again and again and again until you feel comfortable. Although you can see it does say good job rehearsing, so it does also give you that nice feedback too. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this tool and if you like it as much as me, because for me, this is my favorite presentation tool that I've come across. I think it's very, very useful for all purposes, especially for students, right? We can get students to practice their presentation skills with this tool. So I just want to go through a couple of tips, which I've sort of touched on already, but as always, use your discretion with AI generated content. So especially in the second tool that we looked at with Brisk Teaching, and if you're using tools like ChatGPT to add content into something like Slides Go, obviously just use your discretion on whether that's level appropriate, whether it's appropriate for the context and your class in general, perhaps the background of your students too. And yeah, check for biases, of course, in content too. Let AI help you with the visuals and structure, but of course, the core content should be your expertise. As I always say in my courses and on this channel, AI is not here to replace us. It's here to assist us and help us. So there are many AI tools out there. So my final note would just be play around with them and see what you prefer. Obviously, there's a lot of different AI generated presentation tools you can use. On Canva, for example, you can do something similar to what we looked at. And there's another tool called Almanac, which again, you can generate content and generate slides. Not every AI tool is good, and you won't like every AI tool out there, but just play around and see what you prefer. So thank you all so much for coming to the session. It's great to hear your thoughts in the comments. And as I said, if you are watching this on replay, do feel free to comment if you've used any of these tools. I'd love to hear your experiences and perhaps how it went for you as well. You know, if you did this with your students, how did they find it? Have they improved their presentation skills? We'll be doing another YouTube Live on August the 30th here on ELT CPD. This was our first one, so thank you so much for attending and thank you for watching back on replay. Our next session will be on using AI for image generation. So please do share the channel with other teachers that you think could benefit from these sessions. Every week as well on the channel, we're releasing videos of demonstrations of how to use different tech tools in the classroom. And do check out our AI teacher training courses on eltcpd.com. We've released 2 new courses on helping your students improve and enhance their receptive and productive skills using AI. So those courses are available for just $9.99 each. And there's over 25 different classroom activities in each course that you can take away and a bank of resources that you can use in your lessons too. Thank you all so much for coming and thank you for watching on replay and I'll see you soon.